starting, you will have very excited talks. We have requested 5 of our best brains to come here and talk about different topics. So तुम्ही जर सगळ्यांनी अजेंडा बघितला असेल तर आपण 6 पॅव्हेलियन दुपारी ब्रेकआउट सेशनमध्ये करणार आहोत. त्या पॅव्हेलियनचे एक ओनर आहेत. ते ओनर आपले कीनोट स्पीकर असणार आहेत आणि ते कीनोट स्पीकर मी आता इन्व्हाइट करणार आहे. ते तुमच्याशी 10-15 मिनिटं बोलतील. ते त्यांच्या पॅव्हेलियनचा टोन सेट करतील. त्या पॅव्हेलियनमध्ये काय होणार ते अपेक्षित आहे ते तुमच्याशी बोलतील. So I'm going to request and I'm going to invite our first keynote speaker, Dr. Ajit Jaokar. Please welcome him with a round of applause. Let me introduce Dr. Jaokar. Dr. Ajit Jaokar is based in London. He is a prominent figure in the field of artificial intelligence and Internet of Things. With his diverse range of roles in research, entrepreneurship and academia, he is a course director and tutor. He leads continuing education's portfolio of AI courses for professionals covering topics like autonomous AI, agents, cybersecurity and AI applications for various industries. In addition to his work with University of Oxford, he is also fellow in Department of Engineering and Science. Dr. Jaokar is an accomplished data scientist through his company FinLabs. He focuses on developing innovative AI prototypes for domains such as cybersecurity, robotics and healthcare. Beyond his academic and entrepreneurial endeavors, Ajit's influence in the AI and IoT communities is widely recognized. He has conducted AI courses at esteemed institutions like London School of Economics, the University of Political at Madrid, and Harvard Kennedy School of Government. Ajit is an avid publisher, contributing extensively to the platforms at Data Science Central. His significant contributions in the field have earned him recognition as one of the top influencers in IoT in 2017, alongside major industry players like Amazon, Bosch, Cisco, Forrester, Gartner, as acknowledged by Munich Re, German insurance company. I think I will listen. So मला ना खूप कठीण काम होतं. मला सांगितलं की तुम्हाला ना अजित जावकर आणि बरोबर ते 4 जण इंट्रोड्यूस करायचं आहे आणि आय ट्रस्ट माय मेमरी ॲज लिटल ॲज पॉसिबल. सो मला ते असं लिहून आणायला लागलं आणि वाचून दाखवायला लागलं. तर मला असं वाटतं की मी तुम्हाला एवढंच सांगेन की अजित सर आमच्याबरोबर गर्जे मराठीबरोबर अगदी सुरुवातीपासून आहे. ते आमचा AIचा जेवढा कॉम्पोनंट आहे आमच्या मेंटरिंग प्रोग्राममध्ये ती सिंगल हँडेडली मॅनेजेस इट आणि रिटलेसली आम्हाला खूप त्रास देतो. आम्ही सांगतो की सर AIमध्ये हे करायचं आहे, AIमध्ये ते करायचं आहे आणि दॅट्स हाऊ इट स्टार्ट्स. सो लेट मी रिक्वेस्ट डॉक्टर अजित जावकर टू गिव्ह अ कीनोट स्पीच ऑन AI पॅव्हेलियन. सो ओव्हर टू अजित सर. येस सर.
थँक्यू. नमस्कार, गुड आफ्टरनून. आता जेवणानंतरची टॉक आहे, पण आय थिंक हा जर 15-20 मिनटं जर तुम्ही लक्ष दिला तर इट विल बी ट्रुली व्हेरी लाईफ चेंजिंग फॉर यू. आय एम सिरियस अबाउट दिस, कारण ॲज यू नो इन लास्ट 6 months AI has changed everything, and I'm going to talk to you about how we see that and how it can be useful for you. Next slide. Okay, before I start, I would like to acknowledge Amin Ganu's work. Without his help, I don't think we would have been possible all this work. So thank you again, Anand sir. आता ही जी स्लाइड आहे ह्याच्यात मी तुम्हाला 2-3 गोष्टी सांगतो बिफोर आय लाईक माशेलकर सर. आय विल स्पीच विथ इन मराठी अँड इंग्लिश व्हेरी फ्लुएंटली, इज नो प्रॉब्लेम. तर व्हॉट आय वॉन्टेड टू शेअर विथ यू हिअर इज व्हॉट कोलॅबोरेशन मीन्स. नाव आय मेट Prof थ्रू गजे मराठी. And we, as Oxford University, you can see our logo there, you can see Microsoft logo there, and Baramati Center of Excellence. We set up this Center of Excellence for AI in Agriculture with Microsoft, which was the first time ever out of North America they have set up in India. And this is about AI in agriculture. This is benefiting farmers in India, farmers in Maharashtra. And this came about just on a single small conversation. So next slide. You can see more. This was covered in the newspaper in Times of India also. Next slide. And all these things we talked about it. The Microsoft director came to Varanasi to talk about this as well. Next slide. I'd also like to acknowledge Ravi sir. So another collaboration where we started off and working in our company. So thank you again. And one more slide is again our own Devdatta sir. Why I'm putting this here is because I met him here also, and I've also invited him to be a part of our course at Oxford University. So what I'm trying to tell you is that most of these things, which start as just conversations here, can lead to something much bigger. And that's the proof of that. Next slide. So I was in the White House. This is Senator Costa. The next slide. So this is a little bit about a bio of me as well. Next slide. So this is me in the White House 2 days ago. And what was interesting was that when you talk to the senators, when you talk to congressmen, when you talk to members of the European Parliament, everybody wants to know about what AI is going to mean, correct? What it means to jobs, what it means to startups, what it means to risk. And I'm going to try to summarize that in 20 minutes for you. I'm going to choose 2 important points which I think are relevant to you. So this is the goal of my talk. But what I talked about here is the same conversation everybody is having at this level as well. And it's very important to sort of emphasize that. Next slide. Sorry, one more slide before. What I'm known best in Garje Marathi is this, as was mentioned before. So in the pandemic, I started this AI mentoring program which still continues. And I started it as a social thing. I do this in Oxford, and it was modeled on that idea. And so many of the people here, I met them for the first time, who are members of this collaboration. Again, it shows that if you contribute to something, you can get back to it many ways which are unexpected with that. Next slide. So I'm going to have 2 questions, only 2 questions. The first one is my job safe with AI? Second one is how can large language models help in my startup? Large language models is the generic term for ChatGPT, correct? So what I'm going to talk to you about these 2 things, that's why I thought to you, if you spend 20 minutes here, this could be life-changing for you. Next slide. आपल्या बालपणाची असतं लहानपणी, I don't know how many of you have remembered this, but this was something I remembered. So I thought of a thought experiment. की आपल्याला असं मम्मी मला माझं स्वतःचं ChatGPT करायचं आहे. कसं करू? कसं? हां? तर आइन्स्टाईनचा थॉट एक्सपेरिमेंट असतो. असं मला वाटलं की आपण एक इनोसेंट क्वेश्चन विचारूया. की मला स्वतःचं माझं ChatGPT करायचं आहे. ह्याचं इम्प्लिकेशन काय आहे? And that I will, if you understand this question, you will understand a lot about what the pitfalls are when you set up something. Yes? Next slide. Is my job safe? This is the first question. Yes? Next slide. So how many people think that AI will affect their job? Good? Actually not so many. Yes? Now if you go to the next slide, this is a slide from McKinsey which says 2 things. First of all, the opportunity is tremendous, $4.4 trillion. And there are 4 areas which are identified: customer service, R&D, and so on and so forth. But the last thing is interesting. What it says is half of today's work activities will be automated between 2030 and 2060, the midpoint of 2045. Which means that almost certainly all of your jobs will be automated by about 50%, right? Assuming that you're all white-collar workers, which you are, yes? And there is one more very interesting thing. If you go next slide. I use this slide. This is biting the hand that feeds. Why do I use this slide? It's because the first job AI is going to come after is the data scientist and the developer. Yes? So this is what I mean by biting the hand that feeds, right? Because AI, these developers, these data scientists are creating AI, but AI is going to come up for their job, and I'll explain to you why. Next slide. But there is a huge opportunity. I don't know how many of you have seen this. This is Netflix advertising for an AI product manager paying $900,000 for this role. I don't know how many of you are aware of this. This was in last week. Yes? And Netflix is in controversy for getting rid of people. Right? They are also, there's a huge Hollywood strike going on. So something very big is happening. Some very big money is going back and forth. Somebody is making money, somebody is not making money, clearly. Yes? Next slide. And the most important thing I would like to say is AI is not going to take your job, but somebody who uses AI will. This is the most important point, correct? A lot of AI is going to be using AI to accelerate what you already know. Yes, next slide. And why does this matter? So what matters is this is our typical Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yes, all of you know this Terminator and so on and so forth. What matters is he's here. When I say he's here, I mean that artificial general intelligence is on its way. This was the biggest difference with OpenAI. No company went ahead with the stated goal of going for AGI. Yes? And I will explain to you the definition very briefly. Basically what it means is that currently we have narrow AI, correct? So whatever we are trying to do like healthcare and something like that, that's narrow AI. Artificial general intelligence means that the same AI can do anything, can do multiple jobs. So ChatGPT is artificial general AI. Until 6 months ago, nobody thought we were going to get there. And suddenly everybody is now aware that we are going to get there. Next slide. Now I'm going to share with you something very interesting. I'll quickly share with you these slides. Not very technical, but you can see how powerful this is. This is a picture where you have a picture and you ask a prompt to AI. And the prompt is that how many muffins can each child have? So if you go next slide, what it does is identifies using computer vision. There are 2 boys and there are 8 muffins. Next slide. Then it generates the code to divide the 8 muffins between the 2 boys, and it creates an output, right? So the most important thing here is that AI, generative AI is not ChatGPT. There are 3 modes of generative AI, at least, yes? So which is language, code, and images. So DALI is stable diffusion, that is images, language is ChatGPT and BARD and so on and so forth. And then there is code, which is very interesting, which is what I said that AI is going to take your job, because if you think at GitHub Copilot and all those tools, they are actually very, very strong code generators. I mean, you have put a code generator behind a problem, everything becomes different, correct? Because now you are prompting an image. You just have an image, you ask a question to the image and you get an answer. And this is why I say to you that AI is going to take biting the hand that feeds, because it's going to accelerate coding and it's going to create whole different applications just by doing that, which is going to be extremely disruptive. Next slide. So these definitions I already shared with you, so I won't go into that. The next question is this one. The second question of my talk is, how can I build my large language startup? Yes. Now my question is, who is the biggest competitor in your large language model world? Anybody have any thoughts? OpenAI? Yes. Very good, very good. The biggest competitor is the LLM itself, the large language model itself. Everything you do can be done by the large language model itself. So there is no real moat. To finding a moat, as a startup calls a defensive position, moat. A moat is very hard with the word of LLM, because you're actually not competing with other startups, you're competing with this big thing, which is sucking up all the data and creating something better, including your own data, correct? So that's where you have to be very careful when you build your own ideas, when you build your own startup. Where is the defensive position? And I'm going to give you some more thoughts on this. We can discuss this in the session afterwards. You can also message me afterwards. Some of this is a little bit technical, but I'm going to throw the sort of discussion at you. Next slide. So there are 4 possible ways in which you can work with AI. The first one is what is called LLM calls. You can directly work with the OpenAI API. The second one is called, most people know as prompt engineering, right? So what you do with ChatGPT is prompt engineering. The third and the fourth one are most people do not know. The third one is called embeddings, where you actually translate everything into a vector database and then use that database to query things. So it's like, for example, I have my own CD. I can write an application, a ChatGPT application, to interrogate my CD, correct? So if I want to ask a question that how long has Ajit been teaching in Oxford, that's from my CD, yes? The next question is, what is Oxford University, how old is Oxford University? This goes to the LLM, correct? So you can build these applications by chaining different things together, and you can build these applications by building those AI components within that. This is the in that. The last one is most interesting. Last one is called agents. Agents, we're doing a lot of work in AI at that. So agents mean that if I want to book a holiday to Greece, yes, all I tell it is I want to book a holiday to Greece. It then splits it into sub-goals, tries to optimize each sub-goal, and then gives me a solution. And if possible, actually executes it, correct? So this is a very powerful idea. This means that you are now telling AI to do something at a higher level of abstraction, right? And this is a very, very strong thing, and this is where I see a lot of change coming as well. Last slide, next slide. So this I will just skip because we talked about this. Next slide. So some of those areas like fine cone and semantic kernel are interesting, but again, for your thoughts, yep. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. So final couple of thoughts as to what are the limitations and what are the advantages. The most important thing what we see is that the whole workflow is going to change with generative AI, right? So I don't believe in the B2C use case of generative AI because it's too risky. What I do believe in is a B2B use case because the workflow of AI, workflow of your application development changes completely with generative AI, especially with the ability of generative AI to generate code. This is the crux of my thinking with that. Then of course we believe in a lot of things such as the co-pilot first approach, meaning prompt engineering to make it easier and things like that. Next slide. But there is a trade-off. The trade-off is how do you manage your intellectual property, correct? How do you manage which of those options you choose? And what are the things you should look for in addition to ChatGPT? So I'm going to give you two things which I look for, very interesting. Next slide. The first one is this thing called Llama 2. Llama 2 came from Facebook, Meta. It's an open source implementation, open source competitor to ChatGPT. Extremely interesting idea. And again, because it's open source, you can build your own IP and you can manage it yourself, correct? Next slide. The next slide is an acquisition made by Databricks called MosaicML. So MosaicML allows you to run the ChatGPT-like thing on premises, in your own premises, correct? So if you're a bank, for example, if you're a cybersecurity company, you can then keep your own model with you. Otherwise, you are just training OpenAI's data. Yes? And this is what I mean by you need to understand the trade-offs between large language models and how they work together. Next slide. I find in two slides, I think this is very interesting. So this was in 1991 or something like this, and people thought the internet wasn't going to be very interesting, very wrong, very much so. Next slide. But I see it this way, I see that a huge opportunity. This was when I talked to the White House, I said the same thing as well. That we have been thinking about areas like China, for example, that they are going to be very interesting with Kai-Fu Lee's book. But I see that the mantle of AI leadership has come back to the US with the ChatGPT idea. And that's exactly what I was saying, that we need to take this up and we need to build up on this to become sort of great AI. Next slide. A slide about what we are doing. So we are doing a few interesting things. We are doing a whole, okay, we can go to the next slide here. Yeah, so I'll just quickly talk about what we are doing. We are building a whole bunch of applications. I have an interesting startup which is looking at how AI can work into more complex areas. We are setting it up in the US. And the final slide, next slide, is we are also setting up another company in New York City to both are spin-offs for my workshops, which look at how AI can be used to completely transform education, especially research around that. So these are the sort of areas which I have been following, and in many ways these are the areas which I think are very interesting. So we are working with a whole bunch of pilot applications at the moment, some in Germany, some in the UK, some in the US. I think that many of these things are very interesting and very experimental. Quite happy to speak to you guys about this. Next slide. Thank you very much. So I think this is what I wanted to share with you at this point. We have time for questions, Karan? We can take it afterwards. So we can take the questions in the session. Thank you very much after the lunch session. But like I said to you, if you kind of think about this in 20 minutes, where AI is going, which is what I wanted to share with you. So it's not something, it's very disruptive. It will affect just about everybody in this room, but there are many things to follow.